Welcome back to Mama's Talk Relationships. I am Lisa Miller.
And I'm Alessandra Martinet.
Are you ready to dive into another episode about love, loss, and everything in between and after divorce?
I am so ready.
What are we going to talk about today?
Today, we are going to talk about toxic relationships and how to break the cycle of being in them.
Good one.
But before we dive in, Lisa, you want to tell them about our fun project that we've been working on?
Yeah, you guys, if you are in the throes of deciding whether to stay and go in your relationship, if you are in the middle of your divorce and heartbroken, if you are after your divorce and looking for an amazing community, Alessandra and I have put together everything that we wish we would have had when we were in your shoes. Yeah. That will be launching very soon. If you want to get in at the founders rate, be one of the first to know about it, shoot us over a DM, say we want to be in on just write divorce community. You don't have to write all that. And we'll know what you're talking about. We'll put you on the wait list and you will get in at the early bird pricing, which will just be for a limited number of people. And we can't wait to see you inside there.
We're so excited.
Oh,
So,
and just in case you guys don't know where to find us, you can find me at lisamiller.coach and you can find Alessandra at Mama's Guide to Divorce on Instagram. DM either one of us. And if you are enjoying listening to our podcast, please give us a follow, give us a review. It would mean the world to us.
okay, so let's dive in.
Let's
Toxic
do it.
relationships. Have you ever been in the pattern of a toxic relationship, Lisa? I've been in many patterns.
Yes, I have. And here's the thing. Most of us have, and most of us don't even know it until we look back and we're like, holy moly, that was so toxic.
Okay, so what are some signs of like a toxic relationship? To me, it's the breadcrumbing, manipulation, criticism, going back and forth to the same person over and over again because that's all you know,
Hot and cold,
hot and cold.
avoiding you, avoiding conversations. Those are all definite signs. There's obviously the toxicity of verbal abuse, super toxic, cheating, lying, betrayal, all super toxic. So the first thing to kind of move away from a toxic pattern is to become aware. If you have to really take an honest look at your relationships and see what kind of patterns that you have. And I promise you have patterns. We all do, right?
We all do, but I also think it's if you are in this pattern of toxic and toxic and toxic, you have to look at the relationship with yourself
I mean, everything
because
starts with yourself.
everything starts with yourself.
So one of the first things I always do when I start working with a client is we do the deeper subconscious work to find out where that started, right? So there's a reason why you're attracting that toxicity into your life. And it
Hmm.
usually starts with a story that you've made up to, this is going to sound super dramatic, but to survive childhood, right? So like
Yep.
we all have trauma in our body from childhood. Most of us don't realize that, but it's stored inside of our bodies. And we have to kind of go back to where it started, to the childhood, to whatever experience happened. And when I say trauma, there's big T trauma, there's little T trauma, right? Big T is something big like rape. And then there's little T like to a kid, to like a 5 to 8 year old kid. Little T trauma can be mommy and daddy fight a lot. They must not really love me. I must not be good enough, right? Because as
Hmm.
humans, we make everything mean something. And then what happens is at that point as a child, you have this belief, I'm not good enough, and you start making choices and actions from that point. And
Hmm.
you will start to see that through all your relationships if you take some time to really sit and focus.
Or if you grew up in a home of a lot of uncertainty and chaos, it's comforting to be in that chaos as an adult. It's weird, but it's true,
Well, that's your nervous system, right? We should do a
right?
podcast on nervous system, but our nervous system will always go to a familiar hell rather than an unfamiliar heaven. because that's what we know. So if you
Mhm.
are in a toxic relationship, quite literally, your nervous system's been in survival mode for a very long time. So you don't even know what it feels like to be regulated and at peace. And that's like
And
some of the
if you
deeper
are
work.
and when you are at peace, it's such a foreign thing.
Well, you'll reject it actually
Yeah, it's true.
until you heal, right? Until you do that healing. So it becomes like really necessary to kind of go in and look at your whole life, right? It's not just this one relationship, but if you look at like, oh, this happened to me in that relationship and it's not the exact same, but like similar, you'll start to see similarities. I promise you.
Yeah, and for a lot of women, and this word is thrown around a lot, but it's true. Why is it that we are attracted to emotionally unavailable men? We're always trying to chase someone.
Hmm.
Why?
Well, I think part of it is, if we're always going after the emotionally unavailable man, part of you is emotionally unavailable. And
Very true.
part of that is because again, your nervous system is dysregulated, it's chaotic. That feels familiar and safe.
Yeah.
It's not, logically it's not, but that's what it feels like in your body.
So I think one of the ways you can start to work on not being in that cycle of toxic relationship is to understand the emotional triggers, right?
Sure.
I feel like I've been in relationships and the signs are there, but I've ignored them and I'm always getting triggered. How do you work through that?
So I think as you realize what your own story is, what your own limiting belief is. So mine, for example, my main one is I'm not enough. And if I look at all my relationships, I can see a very clear pattern of I'm always feeling like I'm not enough. And so I start to
Same.
like, yeah, so I start to like, freak out at like weird things that like normal, I shouldn't say normal, I'm normal, but like,
You
like,
are?
I
Kidding.
mean, I try to be. But, you start to like personalize things that maybe actually isn't personal at all. Most things aren't. And when you're in the situation, if you just take a pause and you're like, okay, what am I making this mean about myself? And not
Mhm.
react, not immediately jump to like, oh, you're doing this to me, right? But just to say, okay, what am I making this mean? And then you're like, oh, there it is. There's the I'm not enough. And then get
Mhm.
curious, like, is that actually true? Right?
No,
And
but
then
that's how you've felt for a long time. That's how
right,
you've grown up. Or if you've ended a marriage because of infidelity,
mm,
it's a big wound.
mhm, it's gonna take a minute. But that, you get
Mhm.
curious of like, is it actually true? I'll give you the Cliff Note version. It's never actually true, right? And then it's flipping it to I am enough and kind of trying to find proof in your life. There's always proof of you being enough. I'm a good mom, I'm a good friend, I'm whatever. And reminding yourself and then being like, okay, like, why did I take that so personally? And then how, and coming back to that person and having a conversation in a really, I mean, more stable place than right when the
Mhm.
trigger hits.
Yeah. I also think that you have to start setting boundaries.
100%.
When you start dating someone, you have to have like your hard nose that you will not tolerate. Because I found like right out of divorce, I would tolerate anything.
The breadcrumbing. Sweet.
Oh my gosh,
Right?
he likes me. I don't even know if I like him, but he likes me.
Right. Or just, I haven't heard from him in a week, so I'm going to text him because I don't care. And like, but in reality, it's like, that's not really what you want. Like, you want, it to be equal and balanced and not, you don't want it to chase. That's ew.
No. So you have to start setting boundaries on what I think you are really looking for in a relationship.
Well, self boundaries is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boundaries with yourself of what is like a non negotiable and what's like, okay, like I can compromise on that. And what's um, like, those are, I guess, the two main ones. The things
Yeah.
that you
For
really need
me,
and
like
want.
my biggest thing in the next relationship I get into, I need to feel safe.
I love
I'm
that.
not going to chase the highs and the lows and play games. I don't want it. I'd rather be alone.
So what does that look like for you? I'm curious.
I think safe mean consistency,
hmm So
not have,
consistency in communication and seeing each other.
yeah, and being able to share your thoughts and not be afraid of how someone is going to react.
Open communication.
Yeah. I
hmm
also think to feel safe, it just, I don't even know how to explain it, but I think consistency is another big deal.
Okay.
And,
So
and acceptance, of the life I have with my kids, where I am, like how well I get along with my ex-husband. There's a lot of things.
I love that. But I love that you
Mhm.
know what they are. That's so important. But going back to the actual topic of, how we break these toxic patterns, it's awareness, it's having those self boundaries, it's knowing who you are and being able to set those boundaries and to know that you can that it's okay. It's okay to have boundaries. It's okay to have these needs and wants and like express them. And if someone can't meet you there, they're just not your person. That's not personal.
No, but to be able to build those boundaries and stick to them and not accept the BS, you have to work on your confidence and your self-worth.
Yes, that's huge. I would say also there's a huge role of like forgiveness and letting go so that you can break the pattern. There's
Mhm.
self-forgiveness. You don't ever have to forgiveness is always for you. I know I say that all the time, but it's never
Oh, I
about you
believe
going
that.
yeah, it's never about you going to the person saying I forgive you. It's like forgiving the person so you don't carry that weight of sadness and anger and resentment that's holding you down and keeping you stuck.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
think another big thing is having a really good support system that will help you, like when you are getting breadcrumbs or you start to date again, and like just all the signs are there and you're not seeing it. Really trusting that support system.
Oh, 100%. But
Yeah.
also, you have to surround yourself with a support system that will encourage you, and they're not like man haters. Because if you
Yes.
surround yourself with that, forget it.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard to date really good guys because like everyone's like, oh, every guy sucks. So that's like, wherever your energy goes, attention, wherever your attention goes, energy flows. So,
You have to love your life as a single person and have the next person that comes into your life be an added bonus and not look for them for any validation, because that also
you have to love
leads
yourself.
to, yeah, it all comes
hmm
down to that too.
Yeah, and you have to know how to validate yourself. You have to not just know I am enough, but like believe it in your heart.
Believe it.
That's where the real transformation happens. That's where the letting go of the toxic patterns happens when you actually truly believe in your heart and your soul, like I am enough and I know I deserve a healthy relationship. That's when it happens. But that's a lot of the deeper inner work.
Oh, 100%. But I have the best coach ever. So
Who is it? Tell me.
her name is Lisa Miller. She's amazing.
Thank you.
All right, mamas, we're nearing the end of another episode of Mamas Talk Relationships. As always, we want to thank you for joining us on this journey. We'll be back next week with another insightful, informative, and hopefully entertaining episode on navigating dating and relationships after divorce.